Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Paritosh Baghel, consultant physician, SL Raheja Hospital of Fortis Associate. Well, today I'm going to talk about vector-borne diseases. As we all know, this vector-borne diseases is a disease which is very common during monsoon. Now, what do you mean by vector-borne diseases? Are those diseases which are spread through someone, not directly from person to person. There is an agent which is there in between which transfers the disease from one person to another. I'm going to talk specifically about malaria and dengue, which is very common. As you know, I've been hearing the news about these diseases spreading so rapidly. I mean, there have been news reports where there have been number of people who have been infected either with dengue and malaria. Now, what do you mean by vector-borne diseases? As I told you that we are dealing through COVID pandemic as well. And as you know that COVID is spread through air, through respiratory droplets from person to person. There is no intermediate agent or any person or any insect or any vector which is involved. So vector-borne diseases are those diseases in which the person to person transmission occurs through an agent, and that agent can be anything. It can be a living thing or a non-living thing as well. So when we talk about malaria and dengue, the agent which is involved in transmission of disease from one person to another is the mosquito. So mosquito is the vector in these cases, and it is a very common vector for many of the diseases, not just malaria and dengue. There have been other diseases as well which have been spread by mosquito. So the first disease which I am going to cover now is malaria. Now, malaria is an age-old disease. It has been since time immemorial, since humans are alive. Malaria has been happening to people, and it's not so a disease which one should be taking lightly. It is one of the leading cause of deaths, especially in the underdeveloped world. If you look at malaria is a leading cause of death in the underdeveloped world. It is spread through mosquito. And there are different types of mosquito, and the vector which is known to cause malaria is a female mosquito, which is Anopheles mosquito. Generally the transmission of this malarial disease occurs when a mosquito, which is specifically Anopheles, which bites an infected person. It draws out the infected blood, which contains the parasite, the malarial parasite. And the same mosquito, when bites to a healthy person, that is how the transmission of the bacteria, of the parasite, which is a malarial parasite, occurs from person to person. The malaria parasite it's a parasite. It's not a bacteria. It's not a virus. It is a parasite which infects through the bite of a mosquito, and it is spread in the body through blood. It grows in the liver, and then it is again spread to the RBCs, and it circulates throughout the body. The main symptoms of how do you know that how to know how you have got malaria is the symptoms are generally seen after 5 to 7 days of a bite of a mosquito. That is called as an incubation period. So after around 7 days of a bite, the person starts getting fever. Generally in our country, these diseases are seen in the monsoon, so they are monsoon related illness as well. After the start of monsoons, the breeding of these mosquitoes take place, and then they spread the infection. So generally we see this surge of infections in the monsoon season, that is June, July, August, and it continues because the mosquitoes have a ground to breed. Now this mosquito, Anopheles mosquito, breeds in any water. It doesn't require clean water. It can breed in any swamp or any water body which is there. So there have been programs to eradicate the mosquito malaria by doing various programs to prevent the breeding of these mosquitoes. Well, the symptoms of malaria are fever. One will get fever with chills. Generally you get chills. There can be a fever can come at a regular interval, although it is very uncommon because nowadays we have been using paracetamol for any fever. So the pattern of fever is not so classically seen, which has been described altogether because of malaria, is you can get fever every alternate day or every third day. So this is a pattern of fever. One can get fever with chills. In our country, and especially if there is an associated cases occurring in and around your society or in and around your house, very likely that it is a common infection which has happened through a mosquito bite, and it could be very well be malaria. Well, malaria can be mild, can be moderate, can be very severe. Mild malaria can be present only as fever, body ache, weakness, but one can definitely become have a severe disease, and it is more so in infants and in elderly and in pregnant ladies. So these are the population who, if they get malaria, they have the chance or they have the vulnerability to go develop severe disease. And what do you mean by severe disease? Is the fever becomes very high, patient may become unconscious, patient may develop jaundice, patient may develop kidney problems, they may go into renal shutdown, liver failure, jaundice. They can have cerebral malaria where they become unconscious. Such things can happen to anyone. So anytime if there is a high suspicion that there is malaria, one should start treatment promptly at the instance you get fever, especially during this season when there is a epidemic or there is a surge of malaria cases. One should definitely test. So how do I know? How would I come to know that I have got malaria? First, if you have those symptoms of fever with chills, with body ache, any involvement of liver, kidney or anything, you should promptly visit a doctor, and once these symptoms are there, you have to tell him that these symptoms have been started, and then he would ask you to do the blood tests. So the blood tests, which are very simple and very easy to be done, it can be done at any peripheral center as well. It doesn't require a big setup to diagnose malaria. It is done through a blood smear where the blood is tested for looking at the parasite in the blood, and and on that basis you can identify that there is a malaria. And once that has been identified, the treatment has to be started. The complications which can occur with malaria is you can land up into liver problem, you can land up into kidney problem. One more thing which is very common, and everybody knows about it, the drop in the platelets. So platelet falling down, patients having these complications, one should get admitted. The treatment for malaria is pretty standard. WHO, CDC, the Indian guidelines, they all mention that one should be taking medications for mild malaria. Oral medications generally subside. You consult the doctor would be the right person to start the medication. As you know, the age-old tradition or the age-old treatment for malaria has been chloroquine. One can start with that only with the advice of a doctor. There are newer medications, more effective medications which have come in the market after the research, and they are pretty safe, and they can be given in patients who are detected with malaria, and generally the course lasts for around 2 to 3 days, and after that you can retest yourself and be free of the disease. The second vector-borne disease which I am going to talk about is dengue. Again, as you know, dengue is again spread by a mosquito. Mosquito is a vector for dengue as well. Although the mosquito which causes dengue is a different one. It is from the family which is called as Aedes aegypti or Aedes albopictus. This is the vector. Now this mosquito is different from the Anopheles mosquito. It can be easily identified, and it generally breeds in a clear water, especially more so if there has been water accumulation in and around the house. In clean water it breeds. So if there is any accumulation of water in and around your house, like in pots or in junk tires, leftover tires in a society, or there has been a collection of water anywhere which is clean, that is a place where these mosquitoes breed, and they are very specific about that. They can bite you in the day, more so in the day and the evening time, as compared to Anopheles, which generally has got a biting habit, especially in the night time. But mosquito bites can occur at any place whenever you are surrounded by mosquitoes. So one has to be very particular about keeping themselves at a safe distance from mosquitoes. Now this mosquito which is causing dengue, which is a vector for dengue, is also called as a tiger mosquito, because when you look at this mosquito, it has got stripes. It's a black colored mosquito with the stripes on its legs and on its body, so it can be easily identified that this is the mosquito which causes dengue infection. Now dengue infection again is spread by the same way, where a mosquito, the Aedes aegypti or Aedes albopictus, bites a person or draws blood from a person who is infected with dengue, and from there it bites, it carries the virus. Now dengue is a virus, it carries the virus, and the same mosquito bites a normal healthy person, and that is how the transmission of the virus takes place. Generally, dengue again is also it can turn out to be a fatal disease if not treated properly. So dengue virus again spread after the bite of a mosquito. The symptoms generally start after 4 to 5 days. That is the incubation period, and after that the patient starts experiencing the symptoms of fever. There could be rash. The most important differentiation between a malarial and a dengue fever is basically development of a rash. And there is severe body ache, there is severe headache, there could be severe joint pain. In fact, the other name for dengue fever is also called as a break bone fever, because the pain is so severe in patients with dengue that the person feels as if somebody is breaking their bones. So this is the kind of a headache, this is the kind of backache. Patient may develop retroorbital pain, pain behind the eyes, fever with a rash. A rash over the body means there is a reddish discoloration of the skin which happens and which is transient. The fever could be very high grade, ranging anywhere from 100 to 103 degrees centigrade Fahrenheit, and the patient appears to be prostrated. There could be nausea, there could be vomiting. The dengue infection per se can be mild in majority of the cases, but a repeat dengue it can land up into a severe disease. It has been found that patients who get infected again, the first bout of infection with dengue generally is mild, but if somebody gets a second wave of infection with dengue, it can turn out to be a severe disease, because the body, it happens that way, that the body starts to aggressively react to this virus and leads to complication associated with dengue. What are the warning signs? When should you understand that this could be a serious disease? In dengue, that in case if the patient starts developing high grade fever, the appetite is gone away, the patient is vomiting, nausea, there is an abdominal pain, there is a respiratory compromise in the sense that the patient starts breathing heavily, or there is yellowish discoloration or a reddish discoloration of urine, there is bleeding from anywhere. If you find reddish spots over the body, or while brushing your teeth, if you find that there is bleeding occurring, then this indicates that the patient is landing up into a severe disease, and one should definitely get admitted if such are the symptoms. How to identify the virus? How to identify that you have got an infection? Well, again, if you have symptoms of fever, chills, rash over the body, severe body ache, joint pain, one should definitely go for the testing for dengue infection. There is a blood test which is called, where we detect the virus antigen in the blood, and that is how you can identify whether you have got an infection. Acute infection can be detected with it. Once the detection of infection is done, there are other blood tests which the doctor would advise to look at the platelets. As you know that the platelets also fall during dengue infection as well, and there could be a need for platelet transfusion. So in case if the symptoms are severe, if the platelets are below 1 lakh, one should definitely be getting admitted, so that the monitoring of the platelets can be done, and if required, the treatment for platelets can be initiated. What is the treatment for dengue? There is no specific treatment for dengue like how you have treatment for malaria. There are anti-malarial drugs, but for dengue there is no treatment as such which is specifically against dengue fever. We have to support the body till the virus is clear from the body, till the symptoms of dengue infection are out. So we have to support by giving fever medications, by giving IV fluids, by giving painkillers, by giving antipyretics, by supplying the platelets in case if the platelets fall below a certain level. That has to be decided by the doctor. As far as it goes, most of the times the dengue infection is mild, but one can definitely get severe disease. One should not wait for the warning signs. In case if the fever is not settling, in case if the patient is developing abdominal pain, decrease in the urine output, respiratory problems, one should definitely get admitted. This is about the treatment and the diagnosis of malaria and dengue. These are vector-borne diseases. But the most important aspect which I would like to point today is that since there is a vector which is involved in transmission of this disease, we can definitely halt the progression of this disease, or in fact we can halt the acquiring of this disease if we take precautions, if we do preventive measures, and that is what is more important rather than the treatment. Once you get the disease, you have to treat it, there is no doubt about it. But the focus should be to prevent such infections which are vector borne, because you have an ample opportunity to prevent such infections, because we can do the changes in our lifestyle and we can look at our surroundings to prevent the mosquito bites. So most important thing is the prevention in such vector-borne diseases, and that includes avoiding mosquito bites. Now that is a very difficult task to do, but yes, one can follow certain procedures to prevent mosquito bites. Like for example, if you are living in an area which is infested with mosquito, and especially during the monsoon season, when you know that the number of mosquitoes have gone up, one should definitely be staying indoors. In case if you are going outdoors, make sure that you are using full sleeve clothings. You can apply the mosquito repellents which will prevent the mosquito bites. Usage of mosquito nets, which is a very, very important and very, very effective therapy or effective preventive mode, preventive aspect in preventing mosquito bites. So use of mosquito nets is very, very important during this season. You can get mosquito nets which are medicated with mosquito repellents. Those nets can be used, especially in areas where there is high density of malaria cases. Second is avoiding the breeding grounds for mosquitoes, especially for Aedes, for the dengue infection. One should avoid, look at the places which can be possible breeding grounds. Empty the pots which are lying unused and which have containing water in around you. Make sure that whatever pots which you are keeping in your balcony, which has got a plate-like structure where there is water getting accumulated, make sure that it is emptied throughout the day, at least once in a day, so that there is not enough time for the mosquito to breed in that water. These are some of the simple steps which one can take to prevent these vector-borne diseases. One important message which I would like to drive through this talk is that prevention is the key in such diseases, and prevention will save you from the cost, and from not only the cost but also from the physical hardship which one gets when you get admitted, because one never knows who will develop a severe disease, who will develop a severe malarial infection or severe dengue disease. So that nobody can predict when you get an infection. So the best thing is to prevent the mosquito bites by creating a healthy environment in and around you, so that mosquitoes don't breed and you don't get the infections. Thank you so much. Any questions? I am open for it. Thank you so much.